His speech, which was awesome and eloquent, and it's quite amazing the way that the people on the top look at people that work every day and think they don't have the ability to speak, the ability to voice opinion and to gather information and have intelligent thought. The fringe minority is just a bunch of rednecks, and it really. All I'm really gonna do here is, since day one when JT stepped out of his Tofino enclave, when he ran from the truckers and he came and gave that address, and that was the moment that galvanized a country, is what I see. And 6 weeks ago, there was 10 of us, and then there was 100, and then there was 1,000. And if this group right here in Salmon Arm is any indication, we're the fringe. If you multiply this across the country, I'm getting pictures from my friends in Calgary and other cities everywhere. These aren't hundreds, these aren't thousands, these are millions. We are millions of people. Every color, every creed, every religion, every background, every ethnicity, every job, every occupation. We are the people that bring the goods. We are the people that go to work every day. And together, and the biggest thing that I've noticed is this community of love, like everyone else keeps saying. And you see online, there's a lot of people, they just denounce it, and they continue to use the same rhetoric of the white supremacists and the hate and the division, and it's just wrong. To come out and see people, the food, the supplies, the volunteering, and the idea that you were just saying about community, bringing back community, which we've been separated, we've been segregated and alienated, and we just slowly lost this idea that coming together and having a good time with good people is what it should all be about. I'm going to read an email. So I've been, over the last 6 weeks, emailing MPs and MLAs and everyone I can. I've been putting out videos, trying my best. I'm just a regular guy, just like everybody else here. So bear with me. This is what I've written a few times, and just bear with me. Basically, I've written to all elected officials and appointed officials in the media. The most recent example of why a system in which the collective voices and expertise of all needs need to be heard and recognized is the overall approach to the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. A top-down blanket approach using only acceptable views and ideas was implemented from day one. In most cases across most regions, there's growing indisputable evidence that the restrictions, mandates, and approach to eliminating the virus has caused more harm to every facet of life than the virus itself ever will. I say growing because the evidence is finally being accepted among the general population. This evidence was always here and reported by reputable and distinguished scholars and scientists, yet it was stifled, ridiculed, and demonized in an attempt to validate the government's objectives and the narratives. World governments spent hundreds of billions of taxpayers' dollars in a media and public health onslaught to force a one-sided approach, using the coined term, follow the science. It's hard to ignore science, right? Yet this approach followed only the science deemed correct and ignored all others. Virological and immunological science that followed the narrative were the only two sciences that were considered, and all others were ignored or silenced. Scientists and experts in the fields of social science, economic science, political science, geographical science, logical science, philosophical sciences, law and psychology were ignored and discredited. To not include all science and perspectives within discussions of human social policy at this scale is a failure at best. And also, policy and fair, effective governance will never succeed until we understand that science is not science, without first running the gauntlet of extreme unprejudiced scrutiny. So the idea that taking science and just telling us it's science without really proving the data, and that's been proven when the Pfizer documents came out, come on, and it's not being shown on MSM, we gotta wake up. The idea that current science is pure, unadulterated, and unpoliticized, and to believe that the propaganda in our free and democratic world does not exist is ignorance. One simple example of this is the very definition of a vaccine that lasted for decades but was altered last year to fit the narrative and to give legitimacy to the COVID-19 injection. I got vaccinated, I got double vaccinated. I call it coercion. I'm not going to say whatever it is. We all had reasons. I felt for my family I had to, and it is what it is at this point. From the very onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, governments across the West turned directly to public health officials and virology scientists alone and gave unfettered decision-making power and veto power to these very few individuals. And to all accounts, they're experts in their field. There's no argument about this. But the power to make decisions regarding school closures, border closures, vaccine mandates, business closures, lockdowns, were given to a small set of people. And what should have happened from the very beginning was something called policy synthesis, where representatives from every field of science, business, economic, social, judicial, political would have worked together and addressed the effects and risks involved with every course of action taken. Not only did our governments and institutions fail in almost every aspect over the last 24 months, but an almost irreversible erosion of trust towards our health experts. There's loss of trust in the bank, loss of trust in doctors, loss of trust in law enforcement, loss of any remaining trust in elected officials and health officials, in our judicial system. It's time to seriously consider why we haven't begun the task of dismantling the COVID narrative as it stands right now. World governments around the world are dropping these mandates, but a lot of our governments, including the BC government right now, is doubling down in a vain attempt. And it's putting them in the same precarious position as our fearless leader Justin Trudeau. And by all counts, his rating has dropped to single digits. He's lost the moral authority to govern our country. It's as simple as that. If there ever truly was a pandemic, it's over. Overall 99% recovery rate through the entire thing. The efficacy of the COVID shot in serious question. The ever-exploding cases of injection injuries and deaths being reported worldwide, and the overwhelming evidence against the efficacy of mass masking, especially against our children in schools. The vaccine passports are the absolute detrimental effect these policies have on every quantitative and measurable aspect of our lives should be evidence enough to bring an immediate end to every single government-imposed mandate. I'm going to just skip through the end of this. I'm going to go to six things that I think we need to, as the government needs to recognize here. To restore faith and trust starts with admitting fault, something they need to do. A true human being with humility can say, I made a mistake. I effed up. I apologize. Things happen. Can we move forward? That hasn't happened. Is it going to happen? Probably not. Number one, there needs to be immediate recognition and request of forgiveness of mistakes made by all officials involved. This includes mistakes by the lower elected and appointed officials that simply followed orders and directives from top leaders because of fear and intimidation. Number two, there needs to be immediate reconciliation and remediation of all those who have been unlawfully detained, charged with non-violent crimes, and financially or otherwise punished for standing up against unjust rules and laws. This includes the release of political prisoners who we have in Canada. Artur Pawlowski is in prison right now. Tamara Lynch is in prison. These are political prisoners. Patrick King. The unfreezing of all financial and other assets of citizens of Canada who have not received due process, which is a fundamental constitutional right. The immediate withdrawal of all vaccine mandates across Canada. This includes as well the reinstatement of all citizens who have been forced to leave jobs and careers because of these mandates. And reparations must be paid by those affected by these knee-jerk, arbitrary decisions by government. The border and travel restrictions must end. And the excuse that governments say, well, the U.S. still has these rules, that doesn't matter. Lead by freaking example. On your statement, sir, there must be a nationwide, citizen-led investigation into the entire pandemic response, including RCMP-led investigations into individuals or organizations who directly benefited financially or otherwise because of any actions by our government. Corruption, collusion, and monopolization have no place in our democracy. This is a big one. You guys got to listen to this. There's some bills being passed here right away. A temporary moratorium on any upcoming votes on bills introduced into the House of Commons. Without transparency and trust in our government, we must halt all proceedings of bills that will have lasting effects on our freedoms and our rights as citizens. We are in the fog of war, in quotation marks, Ukraine. We are in the fog of war, civil unrest in our country. And around us, it would be irresponsible as a government to rush bills through without first acknowledging the implications without distraction. And number 6, a request for the consideration. I call it consideration, but this is more of a demand. The reallocation of all government funds currently paid directly to all media organizations across the country. The propaganda paid using taxpayers' money will no longer be tolerated by the people of this country. Included in this request is also the expectation that any and all other media channels will not be arbitrarily blocked, censored, or deleted without proper evaluation, dissemination, consultation, or due friggin' process. That's the tip of the iceberg, you guys. I want to finish this by saying, what I've seen online and in person is, we are not organized. We are just individuals, and individuals every moment of the day can look for evidence, can gather evidence, find someone who can help prove something, work together in little communities, little groups that we have.
We're the best investigators.
We are the best investigators. We are the largest, most powerful supercomputer, if you think of it that way, the world has ever seen. Our collective minds can work together without really realizing we're working together. Every little bit counts. And it starts by, if you got to use the legal constitutional processes of emailing MPs and calling MPs and MLAs and whoever it is, your representatives, do that and stand up for yourselves. And I want you to say one thing right here.
All right, guys, I don't know if you were following the parliamentary talks, but Mark Mendocino came out and said that the reason they had to enact the Emergency Measures Act is because there's a group called Diagolon. Okay? Which is a meme, a literal meme of Canadian patriots and veterans, and they called them a far-right militia that was going to violently overthrow the government, and that they had planned all this. I mean, the smoke and mirrors, if that's what they've got, they're scared. They've got nothing. They had no excuse. They couldn't do their coup, because that's what that was. That was an attempted coup by the World Economic Forum. And that's where I'm going to leave it, guys. Thank you.
I'm just going to say, you know what, love? This is amazing. The feeling that I get just when you come into this an hour ago, when I walked into this group of people with hot dogs and food and smiles and love and children with flags, the community of people that love each other, that care about what's going to happen, that want something in their future. This is what it's about. We're not going to do it by hate and screaming and yelling and fighting. We're going to do it just by coming together and loving. Spread our love. They can't take that down. They'll never take that down. We will win ultimately. This is not one battle. This is a war that's going to last for years, for our children and our grandchildren and our future. Let's roll!